Ladies and gentlemen, friends and rivals, we have quite the full house this evening. Or this morning, whenever you're listening. To my left, the hobo rapscallion, Anna.
That's so kind of you. I would like to say hello, and I would like to proudly say that I am definitely a rapscallion.
Say it with confidence.
Yep, that was confident.
Commit to the role.
Yep.
Diagonally to me, the Ticketmaster, Julia.
That's so much less exciting following Hobo Rapscallion, but you know.
Man,
I'll
you try
accept
and
it.
try and give
I'll
people
accept
what they want, and they just
They reject
complain.
it anyway.
You just can't win.
Rejected anyway.
Just like this game, I can't win.
Oh, well.
Even when I win, I can't.
Yep.
Across from me, the engineer,
Yep.
Ian.
That's me.
And last but not least, your conductor for this evening, me.
Yay.
Yay!
We will be your hosts for the podcast. We are honored and somewhat scared for you that you have joined us at our table. Here at the Game Table Podcast, we take a look at various board, card, and other tabletop games. We give an overview, provide our overly considered thoughts, all in an attempt to give you an idea of how well it would fit for you and your table. Today, we will be looking at Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West. Designed by Rob Davio, Matt Leacock, and Alan R. Moon. Artwork created by Cyril Dagin and Julien Delval, and published by Days of Wonder.
In this version of Ticket to Ride, players take on new train companies in the late 1800s, helping expand the boundaries of the USA. 12 games will be completed in this quest to explore new territories. Each of these games will play differently, and the boundaries of adventure could expand, leaving you speechless. When the 12 games are completed, one player will be named the greatest railroad tycoon. Let's discuss Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West.
All aboard.
Well, welcome everyone to this lovely episode of Ticket to Ride. We have another guest that has never been on this podcast before, my lovely wife, Julia.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm happy to have you and everyone. I've not done an episode with Anna, and I've done an episode with Jared, I think.
Just one.
Yeah, but anyway. So we normally start this podcast out with a question, and Julia has a nice little question for us. So what do you have for us?
I've got a good one. Okay, so today we're playing Ticket to Ride Legacy, and I think in just a minute, Jared is going to break down the game Ticket to Ride and how to play and all that good stuff. But for the people who already know what it is, there are a lot of different versions of Ticket to Ride. And that's something I love about Ticket to Ride is there's lots of different ways to play. And so my question is, and it can kind of be answered any way that you choose, what is your favorite version of Ticket to Ride, like location-wise?
Whoa.
If you haven't played that many, which is where I kind of fall, what location would you like them to expand to, or time, or area?
Or time always.
And yeah.
So that.
Wait.
Can I ask a question with a question before we answer?
Of course.
Is this location based exclusively, or could it be a mechanic? Like what's the draw?
I think it can be whatever your favorite is that you've played, or if you would like them to create a new one, it's basically what you want the premise to be.
I'm
And so
with
I
you.
have pulled up Good Old Board Game Geek, and I have a list.
It's two questions technically?
Well, it's twofold if you don't have a favorite and you're like, I think my favorite is yet to be created, or if you're like, no, this one's gold.
Gotcha.
Ian, the way we work, this is clearly a two-parter.
Always.
Yeah, you can do a two-parter for sure.
Always a two-part.
Okay, ladies first, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I definitely know what my favorite one is.
All right. Well,
Because I love Ticket to Ride. It is one of my favorite games.
Same.
And so because of that, my darling, amazing husband has gotten me a different version almost every single year for Christmas.
You have a lot. I'm looking at them right now.
Yes,
They're amazing.
you can probably count. I can't turn around. I won't be in front of the microphone anymore, but there are quite a lot back there. But I have to say my favorite is probably Asia. It has a different component from the other two. I mean, they all have different components in them, but the different component in Asia is that you play on a team with somebody else. And so you take individual turns, but you're working towards the same goals, but you still have your own cards, you still have your own, and it's kind of interesting because you're not really supposed to go off and conference by yourself in another room or anything. So anything you say to each other, the other team can also hear. So it's a really neat dynamic of trying to kind of code, point to things and be like, or shouldn't you do the thing that goes to the green thing? You know what I'm talking about? And
Sudden gestures and
so yeah, gestures and code to try to let the other person on your team help you guys work together without necessarily giving away your strategy, because a very important thing in Ticket to Ride is to not let the other people know where you're going, because they can very easily sabotage you and take your routes. So I really like that one. And I just also want to put in a plug because we have kids, and there is a kids version of Ticket to Ride that we have played with our kids as well.
Oh, yeah, I see it over there.
Yes, called First Journey.
Yeah.
And so that is a very fun one. My 5-year-old and my 7-year-old can play that one. And my 7-year-old says it's her favorite game.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, she says a lot of things are her favorite game, but
Right.
I feel like we still get some points with that. So that's fun because I can play it with my kids too.
Continuing the shameless plug, we will probably see Ticket to Ride First Journey on a
Ooh.
Kids Table episode at some point.
Spoiler alert.
Coming soon.
Probably next year, though, so
Oh.
you'll forget all about it by then.
That's all right. Never happened.
All right, Julia, what about you?
Well, I also really love Ticket to Ride. It's one of my favorite games. My love for gaming extends as far as my relationship with my husband goes. It's not something that I was really into outside of him. So I like, I don't know, more accessible games, I guess. Like I'm not as far deep into the gaming world. And I think if you're either starting your gaming journey or maybe just a little bit of a light game player, Ticket to Ride's really great for that.
If it's your first journey.
If it's your first train journey,
Hey,
it's
that
also
game
a
can
good
be fun
option.
for adults, too.
It really is.
But after looking at the list of all the different games they have,
There's a lot.
I think my favorite is yet to be played,
Oh.
honestly.
Oh.
I
Ooh.
love it. And I want to give a shout out to the little mini ones because there's little like
Yes.
short
Yeah.
ones that
Yeah,
you
those
can
are so
play,
nice.
like New York or San Francisco. And it's just within the city and it's really fun to play those.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. But apparently they have a mystery train one that sounds really fun. And they also have a ghost train one.
Oh, wow.
Which I have not
And
seen
I-
or played,
No.
but it looks really cool. And that's kind of up my alley. So I like it when it kind of puts something on its head and gives a little twist.
Nice. Well, I'll go next. I really enjoy Ticket to Ride. It's not my favorite game, but I never really have a bad experience playing it. Some of my fondest memories of playing Ticket to Ride are when I swing for that grand slam and end up getting a 0 instead. But so that's okay.
Yeah.
It's all part of the experience. I think for me, one map that I really enjoy is Japan. That one really caught me off guard. Josh Taylor bought that and brought it over one night. And I wasn't really sure what to make of it. It had not really gotten on my radar yet. I figured it'd be something I would get for Anna at some point, but didn't really look into it yet. But he was just jonesing to play it.
Yeah.
And jumping in, we quickly realized, so the thing with Japan is it has the big train running through the whole map that the twist is everybody can play on it
Mm-hmm.
and count it towards, everybody can have it count toward their tickets. So it is both this group effort where you need to build the massive train that's running through the center of the city, but you also don't want to help everybody else out. And so there's that tension of how much do I give? How much do I need this? And how much can I work around it?
Yeah.
So I really enjoy Japan.
Yeah. I've not played them all, so I don't know if I like. For sure, Switzerland, Nordic countries they're the smaller maps, so I really do like those. But I think I do like Markland, which is they've
Yeah, that's
redone into Germany, but it was slightly different. But so I have the old one, Markland, which is, I mean, it's Germany, but it's been redone a little bit. But that one's really cool. You get to deliver some passengers along the routes, and as people deliver to those locations, the points, you get less points if the more time it's been delivered to. So if you hit it up first and get your passengers delivered there first, you get the most amount of points, and it plays really quickly. And there's like it was the first time they introduced like the 8 train route, which was really interesting at the time. That was the first time I ever seen that. They've had done it a couple more times now, but I really like that one. That was one of my favorites. I've had that one. I think that might have been like the second Ticket to Ride I bought. I think I got that one before Europe. So I've had that one a long time. But yeah, no, I love all of them. I love UK. I love the Pennsylvania is always a good one. My family's all from Pennsylvania, so I know all like the little little cities and stuff. So they're all great.
So I asked if anybody had any like wishes or like things they wanted to expand to, like creative ideas, and I had zero until just now. What if they did like a Atlantic Ocean one, like between America and Europe, because they have rails and sails, which I've never played. I don't really know how that works, but they could do like submarines. Like you could have a little submarine journey across the ocean. That would be cool. And then also they could do a collaboration with Disney and do like the Epcot like monorails like around the different parks. I think that would be so cool.
Speaking of Disney.
So those are my ideas.
Disney's
I patent them.
taking over
Don't
everything.
take them.
That is a good
Or
idea.
do, but pay me money.
No, I think speaking of things that I would like to see, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a strong answer to that. I mean, that would be cool. Yeah, something that would connect two of these regions that they've talked about, you know, Europe and America or something like that, or even, you know, if you go down to like in Asia to Japan or something like that, like you're connecting maybe two maps together, and that would be a very large game. But I think that would be very interesting if there's something like that ever came up, where you maybe put two boards that already exist and something that puts them together. That'd be kind of wild.
And I'm just thinking out loud here. If you did like a cross between Ticket to Ride and Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, here we go.
Where you're building this theme park,
and
you have to make your roller coaster rides work together.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that would.
Okay, I'd buy it.
As I think about it, so dope.
Just kickstart it right now.
Steal my idea. Just take it.
You have Jared's money, and no matter how much it would cost, if it's a one box print, Jared would buy it.
I'm ready to click now.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
So I think a thing that Ticket to Ride does well as it puts out its different maps is you get to learn geography for one thing.
Yes.
You get to learn other languages also, because when they
put them in
other maps, they put them in the other language.
Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to say that. I'm so sorry.
Zug 'em zug.
Yeah. I have no idea.
But I also like that they try to take a piece from the culture of whatever country or region of the world they're doing and put it in the game. So they have like the toll routes, and they have the bridges, and they have the mandalas in India. So
and the tunnels and ferries from the Europe mostly, but all from super cool. Yeah, for sure.
And so I was trying to think what other aspects of that they could do, but they haven't done. So so something underwater they haven't done. I haven't played Japan, but I don't know that necessarily like a bullet train, or I wonder about the ability to upgrade a train. So thinking how trains started out, you're blasting through mountains or whatever and laying rails by hand, but then you get on up to being able to do underground subways or being able to do bullet trains. And so I think that would be kind of neat to have one where you can upgrade to higher levels of trains. Potentially.
Legacy game part 2.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'm spoiling the end of this Legacy game because you only played a third of it. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, maybe. It's the next big box coming soon.
Yeah, that's right. So thinking about all things train, I think those are some things they have not expanded into some of the more modern day advancements that have been made with trains. So that would be interesting to see in a game.
Yeah, so with all the different Ticket to Rides, there are plenty to be played. So Jared, please tell us a little bit about how Ticket to Ride is played for those that don't know. And then we'll get into a little bit about how this game is slightly different than all of those.
All right, so this is the basic essentials of Ticket to Ride. These are the rules that you will find in the original Ticket to Ride game. They are the baseline for how every other Ticket to Ride after that works, except that it is expanded upon in the various versions, just as we discussed earlier. The goal of Ticket to Ride is to have the most points at the end of the game. There is a board in the center of the table where you are going to be given a map. In the basic Ticket to Ride game, it's a map of America. If you choose a different map, such as Europe, you're obviously going to get the map of Europe. Japan is going to be Japan. You get the idea. On this board, there is a number of cities, and there are track routes that go to the different cities. They will have different colors on them, and they will be the way that you are going to be laying down your routes to score your points. The two ways that you can score points are through playing train routes throughout the game and completing your tickets. On your turn, you can do one of three things. You can draw train cards, play train cards, or draw more destination tickets. If you draw train cards, there will be a row of 5 cards or a deck that you can draw from. You draw 2 cards. They will be of various colors. You're trying to collect sets of these cards to be able to then move to the second action of playing train cards. The way that you play train cards, let's say, for example, I wanted to go from Boston to New York. I would need to lay down 2 train cards of either yellow or red. They would have to be the same color, but I could pick which one. Then I would lay down my trains and score points for that route. The overall goal, though, is not just to lay down random train routes. I am trying to connect them to be able to complete my tickets. My tickets will have 2 cities on them. My goal is to get my train routes to connect from the one city to the other. So, for example, if I was trying to go from Boston all the way to Los Angeles, I would need to find a way to get my train routes to connect from Boston to Los Angeles. Doesn't matter how efficient I'm doing it. I could go in the worst way possible. As long as I get there before the game is over, then I will have completed that ticket and I get the points on that particular ticket. If, however, I am unsuccessful in connecting Boston and Los Angeles, those points on that ticket will be negative.
Oof.
Oof indeed.
Oof.
The last option is to be able to gain more tickets. Again, bit of a risky business because if you can't complete them before the end of the game, they are negative.
Can't risk it unless you go for it.
Again, the goal is to have the most points at the end of the game. You will be able to keep track of how many points players have based on the train routes that they have played, but tickets remain secret until the end of the game. At that point, you tally up scores, and that's the game. Anna, before we go to Ian to talk about what's different in this particular Legacy game, can you please tell us what a Legacy game is?
Yeah, definitely. Because some of you listeners might not be familiar with this phenomenon that is Legacy games, but it's really growing in popularity in kind of the board game world. So basically what a Legacy game is it's a game that maybe you're familiar with, you've played before, you love it, but it's played over a series of games to tell a bigger story that's centered around the universe of the game. So each playthrough will impact future games, and it'll progress you through the story. And often this is done by changing or adding rules to the game, or adding new roles or abilities, or even changing the game board, or adding entirely new game elements that you're not familiar with from your original game. And so when you get to the end, you can't really play a Legacy game twice because you've changed it a lot along the way. But a lot of us, again, in the board game community feel like it's well worth it because you get this really cool story as you go through.
Usually something gets cut in half.
Ripped up. Yeah.
That's part of the fun.
Oftentimes it gets cut in half.
As long as it's something and not someone, we're okay.
The box usually gets cut in half by somebody in rage.
It's always exciting to get to open an envelope or put a sticker in the book or, build something that feels unique and different and just a really unique experience just for you and your party.
It's also super fun when you add the extra tension of having played a few Legacy games and you're starting out a new Legacy game. You're like, okay, I know I'm committing to this. So how do I make sure I don't screw this up?
Right.
You
Yeah.
have to pick the people you play with very carefully because you will be playing lots of games
And
with them.
we'll get to something that I freaked out about later. Don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, when you go in Legacy games, you often do destroy materials. Make sure that it is the correct material that you're destroying.
Oh, no.
Yes. So anyway, with this game though, besides the normal Ticket to Ride aspects that you would see amongst every version of Ticket to Ride, there are just a couple things that are different in this game, and I'm not spoiling anything. We'll get to the spoilers later. We'll warn you.
Spoilers.
We will warn you before any of that. But in this game, and this is nothing that is not either on the back of the box or in the basic rule book, but you own a company. And each of those companies has a special ability, but they all have the same ability, which is when you play cards onto a route that is your color. So I have been green in this campaign. When I played cars onto a green route, I gained $2. These $2 are used more as your kind of point system because that's the other thing that changes. There's not points really in this game. There is not a track around the edge of the board or anything like that. It's mostly money that you're gaining this money throughout the game.
Money has become scoring.
Yes. Along with that, each game will have different events which come through via the newspapers, and they are shuffled into the main deck, and you will play with those, and they'll trigger different events throughout the game. The events change, and they're all different usually in each game that you play. With that, there's an evolving board, which I potentially kind of spoiled, but that's pretty known. We start out, mostly the first game that you'll play when you set up your first game will be really the eastern United States, and you'll kind of go from there. And
East of the Mississippi.
Yeah, east of the Mississippi. And so that's going to be your first game. You'll start from there. You'll start with only 20 trains, unlike the normal, I think, 45. Yeah. So very small, basic game. And you start from there, and then you start opening stuff as the game progresses. It'll tell you when to open things and when not to open things. And the game will evolve as you play. And that is what the Legacy game brings to the table for this.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So with any Legacy game, this is played over 12 games. And I think a lot of them are played over roughly
that's
12.
the rough count.
Yeah. So 12 different games that you will play of this, and you'll get through this kind of overarching story, which Anna mentioned, as that's usually some type of plot to how this plays out. But yes, there's a story cards that kind of explain what's kind of happening throughout the game. So
And every time you play, you build on that story.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, let's go ahead and talk through the designers and the publisher and artwork before we dive
Speaking
into
of legacy,
spoilers.
other Legacy games.
Speaking of a legacy,
Yes.
Alan R. Moon
Okay.
has definitely developed a legacy for himself.
Yes. If we're talking strictly legacy game, a legacy of games.
A legacy of games.
Alan R. Moon.
Different from Legacy games.
Yes. No, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
A legacy of games. Mr. Dr. Moon, probably. He's got to be a doctor of
I
board
don't
games
know.
at this point.
Honorary doctorate
I mean,
in gaming.
This
Ian,
guy.
or anyone else at the table, do you know how many published versions of Ticket to Ride there are without looking at the doc?
I literally just looked it up, and
28.
I couldn't tell you.
More?
I would have said in the 20s. Yeah, probably.
I think it's 45.
Yeah, so there's 34 published versions of Ticket to Ride that I counted briskly on Board Game Geek as
That's
we were
wild.
getting ready. There are others that count as like accessories and things like that, but
Okay.
I didn't count those. And
Gotcha.
So that's main games, expansion boards,
Yeah.
and mini expansions.
Okay.
There's 34 published that I could count on the list.
Gotcha.
Wow. I feel like I need to apologize to Mr. Moon, Dr. Moon, maybe.
Yeah.
Just-
Dr. Mr. Moon.
Dr.
Mr.
Moon. Because I was just talking about how much of a big Ticket to Ride fan I am, and
Right.
I've probably only played half of those.
Right,
Less
yeah.
than half of
I
those.
think
such a-
I've played 3 or 4.
You're a fake fan.
Oh.
Shots fired.
He has made a couple of other games.
Yeah.
Airlines Europe and Ink and Gold are a couple that come to mind.
Those are great games.
But he is Mr. Ticket to Ride.
Oh, for sure.
We do have 2 other guys on here, Rob Davio, who we have talked about before, as well as Matt Leacock.
And these are the legacy games.
These are the legacy guys
Yes.
for legacy games.
Yes.
If you
They
want
do
a
it all.
legacy game, dear publisher, you call these guys.
Yep. Call them up.
They have their own very impressive resume. Matt Leacock, in addition to making a variety of pandemic legacy games, also worked on what I think is the best pandemic game in the series in Iberia.
Mm.
And he also worked on Fall of Rome, as well as Forbidden Island.
Great games.
Yep.
Yeah, great games. And
For sure.
then, Rob Davio, Heroescape, Downforce, Return to the Dark Tower.
Wow.
Also great. It's a great, they also have a legacy of games themselves.
They do.
But they are the legacy game designers,
Yes.
for sure.
I also have a really special place in my heart for Days of Wonder, even
Always.
though they are under the evil umbrella of Asmodee.
Oh, the Days of Wonder.
But Days of Wonder is one of those companies. Ian, we talked a couple weeks ago about Marvel Champions
Yes.
and Fantasy Flight Games really setting the bar.
Yeah.
So I think that Fantasy Flight did that for very gamery games,
Mhm.
but for gateway games,
Yes.
Days of Wonder 100% set the bar for what a good gateway game is supposed to be.
My introduction to modern, deeper board games came from Days of Wonder. I bought 5 of their games, and I still have them, and I won't get rid of them. A lot of them are out of print, but but no, I bought Ticket to Ride, Memoir 44, Coliseum, Pirates Cove.
5 Tribes.
Yeah,
Love that game.
that one's great. they're just it's a long list of great games.
And there's even games on here we haven't played that we're jonesing to play.
Yeah.
Heat is
Yes.
one of their games that we
Yeah,
are
Heat is one of-
Ooh.
drooling to try. Onitama was great. Small World. It's just the list goes
Small
on.
World. I bought that one too. Yeah,
Yeah.
those I bought. I bought my first 6 games that I ever bought were all Days of Wonder games.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep,
So-
for sure. So they have quite the resume themselves.
Yep.
Very obvious why Asmodee offered them lots of money to be bought.
That's right.
Julia and Anna and we'll get to us, I guess.
Oh, wait.
But what do y'all think about the artwork in this game?
I'm a big fan of the Ticket to Ride artwork in general. I feel like they capture a theme really well. I just love kind of old timey like drawings in general. So I'm a little bit already inclined to like it. But this particular game is Legends of the West. So it has that like, old timey hundreds look and feel. And I just feel like all the like packaging and elements and stuff like are really well constructed and really well like designed. Like I got a little tray out of the box that had like elements of the game in it, and I just used it for my own personal like little organizational tool. And it's actually really like beautiful and well illustrated. I feel like that makes it for me because I'm not a big strategy person. I'm not a real heady like in the game person, but I love it when things look nice. So I feel like it looks really nice.
I agree. I like the artwork. And I mean, it's a fairly basic concept, right? You've got different colored pads on the board and you're drawing different colors of train cards, and yet they make each train card unique. And I was looking even game to game, they make the trains look a little bit more unique sometimes.
Yeah, these are all
And
these shapes are not, as far as if you're talking about the actual trains, they're different. I've not really seen those. And the train cards themselves are not anything like the other ones.
Yeah. And so that was one of the first things I noticed when I was dealt my hand, and I was looking at it and I was like, oh my goodness, the red car looks like this in this game.
Yeah.
And it's so neat because you don't have to do that. You could just hand out colored cards and that's it. But
Yeah.
I can tell it was so intentional, and I love that they are intentional to match it to the theme of the game, to the location of the game. And the cards have a lot of detail in them. You could look at them for a long time.
They're beautiful.
And they're beautiful.
And
The board's beautiful.
Exactly what you said. The cards could be the same game to game, but they're so like unique and well illustrated. They're really pretty.
They've always had, going quickly back to Days of Wonder, always had good art on cards,
quality
on
content.
the stuff. Yeah, and it's not like the most realistic art. They always have a little bit more cartoony stuff to it, but always well done.
But they know exactly what they want to do with it, which
Yeah.
makes it come across very crisp and very included with all of their content.
For sure.
I think the thing that stood out for me, I agree with what y'all have said. But the thing that stood out for me is the combination of that old-timey West feel that you were talking about, but also this is a Ticket to Ride Legacy game, so it felt very deluxe. And the mashing of those two, I felt like was done really well.
Yeah.
To where the board felt really deluxe, even though I'm only playing on a third of what I'm used to playing on. And the cards, I looked at them immediately and I was like, oh, nice. It's got this very deluxe feel to it.
Yeah.
But also feels very old-timey. So it was a very nice combination. That's the thing I really appreciate about the artwork in this game, for sure.
Yeah, no, I have the 10th anniversary and 15th anniversary games. The art feels very similar to those. So, yeah, that it fits into that. Is that it does feel deluxe-y. Like the board has art on the actual like terrain where the basic board is kind of whited out.
Yeah.
And it has like little pictures sometimes, but in general, yeah, no, very deluxe vibes.
I would also very much applaud putting the board together with puzzle pieces.
Ugh.
Beautiful.
If I never
Works
have
so
to,
well.
I love Pandemic Legacy Season 1, but if I never have to put a big sticker on the board again to line it up perfectly, it will be too soon because that drove me nuts. But putting puzzle pieces together, fantastic.
Easy.
All about it.
Easy. And you can't do it wrong because it only goes one way.
And I will say this is the spoiler-free section of the episode, but I will say that if you do decide to get this game, the hidden elements that we can't talk about right now are also very beautiful and very deluxe feeling and very cool. And it feels very like it feels like you're stepping into somebody's artistic vision for this like world of like the West and these railroad expansions. Like it's really cool. They've really done a great job.
For sure.
Absolutely. So, we've talked about Ticket to Ride being this great gateway game, right? And so if we've played a quarter of the game, so we played 4 games at this point.
That's a third of the game.
Yes, you're correct. Thanks.
Third of the game.
No
Third
problem.
of the game.
Guess what, guys? You don't have to do math to play this game.
Yeah.
Actually, you do.
Actually.
Well,
Never mind.
That's a lie. No spoilers.
But there's math.
But you might have to do
You
math.
can be a dummy like me and still play.
I'm curious who you I feel the point is, I think we've done enough at this point that we can gauge who could handle this game, right?
Yeah.
Because I think by the time you get through game 4, you're chugging along.
Boom.
This is not a visual podcast, but if you could see the smug look on Jared's face as he made that joke,
He
he was
was
so proud of himself.
I think he thought about that 20 minutes ago.
That's not true.
I see where you're going with this. It's like what is,
Who would you recommend this game for?
if you love Ticket to Ride and you've played a lot of it, you'll be fine playing this game.
I completely agree.
Yeah. If you are a new gamer, don't buy this. Don't, please. If you're trying, don't use this as your first Ticket to Ride experience.
Yeah, maybe don't start with this
Yeah,
one.
please play some other Ticket to Rides. But yes, if you play Ticket to Ride a good amount, even if it's just the USA, I think you'd be fine. If you want to like take on something this
Yes.
extreme, you're like, okay, I'm ready for like a really big adventure.
Well-
I think you could definitely do this. But I think this is more towards people that have played a lot of Ticket to Ride, that have tried a lot of the different maps and know a lot of, I'll get into that, but stuff that has been introduced to many different games and you like all of those.
Mhm.
I think this is a good opportunity to kind of expand that.
I don't know that it's that extreme. And again, I'm coming at it from a gamer's perspective, so I'm really curious to see what Julia says here. Julia is our resident gateway gamer, which
Yeah,
I love.
that's true.
By the way.
Yeah, exactly. She is the gateway gamer.
But I don't know. I felt like it did a great job of easing you in, giving you a little bit at a time as you go through each game. And so if you have played Ticket to Ride, even just the base map, and you want to see what this legacy thing is all about, this is a great one to jump in on compared to some of the other legacy games that I've played. I feel like this one just eases you in real easy.
Yeah.
I'll say also it ramps slowly, which is kind of like what Jared is saying. So of course we're 4 games in now and several new rules have been added, several new mechanics have been added. And yes, if I was starting in game 4 and I was like, goodness gracious, I have to keep track of
Yeah.
all of this stuff
be-
and
it would
paying
be a-
these people and whatever else
that-
needs to happen, then that would be hard. But the very first game that we played was, I mean, in my mind, it was just as basic as Ticket to Ride because you didn't have the scoring of each individual route
Yeah.
like you do in Ticket to Ride, but you did have a way to earn money occasionally. So it was like it took away one element and added one other one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes. And
It's very, there was, I think it was it New York or something that I think added the whole coin thing too. So yeah, there's aspects of other little games, but just anyway, Julia, what do you think?
I think I fall somewhere kind of in the middle. I think that if you've never played Ticket to Ride before, it might be a little bit daunting. But I think if you've played maybe once or twice, like that would be helpful. But I also think it's important to note that we played 4 games literally back to back, and you don't have to do it that way. Most people are normal and spread it out over longer periods of time. But this is what we love to do. So we spent like 4 hours playing this game back to back. And so I totally agree with Anna. I think the first round is, I think, no more complicated than one of the mini like New York or London games. And granted, we've all played before many times, so it went really quickly because we know how to play.
Right.
But I would say it's pretty quick, like the first round, maybe even the first 2 rounds. So I think that as long as you have kind of a feel for how the structure of like playing your trains, putting your trains out, collecting tickets, like if you have a feel for the rhythm of the game, I think you could jump in and maybe just take it a little slower than we did, like not have to go straight to game 4 first night, sit down playing it through. But I do think that the first couple rounds are pretty similar to the Ticket to Ride that you are familiar with.
we really appreciate Julia indulging us abnormal people and playing 4 games.
I mean, I fit right in. I know.
We are the abnormal ones.
It's what we do.
And one last note on that. I mean, just for all you real people out there that go out and do real things outside of playing board games. This game, and Ian and I made fun of it because we would never do this, but it does have a mechanic where if you have a group and someone can't make it for one of those games, they have a way of keeping that person going even though they don't play that night, and then they can jump back in the next time.
I'm not really sure why you would do that, but I would
We're
not
the
be
abnormal ones, though.
I would
Ian.
not be the one to actually know. So there is that part of the game for you if you were that person.
And they maintained it too.
It said it every time you
Very
every new
consistent.
rule we added, every new aspect
It's like
we
if
added.
one of your group is missing.
And we just skipped that part and
Yeah.
didn't read it because we're like, who would miss a
admitted to
game?
this. They thought of it all. I ain't gonna lie. They thought of it all. They thought of it all. So
Do you think that a heavy gamer could enjoy this?
yes, based on the projection that I feel how this game is going to go, yes.
Okay. I am curious to see how much this unfolds.
Yeah.
Because I think at this point it has added some things, but it's also been a very slow ramp. And so I'm curious if it adds enough over the next several games to feel like a lot is being added, or if I'm just expanding across the board.
I think in general it is Ticket to Ride. So if you hate Ticket to Ride,
you will not
then
like
you
this.
shouldn't play a legacy version of Ticket to Ride. That would be stupid.
Don't do that.
Yeah. But I think if you are a gamer that loves a lot of other deeper games and you are fine with Ticket to Ride and would love to play with people that maybe love Ticket to Ride more than you and you're willing to give it a try, I think you will enjoy yourself. I have Ticket to Ride is not like my most favorite game, but I've enjoyed myself so far. There's a lot of cool decisions to be made, and the strategy, like every time, like it's changed game to game, and it's been fun to kind of look at it and be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do this game.
I will just, as a final plug here for me, and then Anna, if you have any other thoughts, you can jump in too. But I really, so we probably talk about this in half of our episodes, but for me, the main thing is getting people to the table, right?
Yeah.
And I think this game has a nice mix of being easy enough as a gateway game that anyone could jump in, but also has the legacy aspect to really give gamers the like, ooh, what's coming next?
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you're in a situation where you've looked at this game as a heavier gamer, or you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, would this fit for us? The thought that I had is, if you and another buddy are talking about it and you are interested, go ahead and maybe invite your wives, because like you and I play games all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't get to hang out with Julia very much just because of life and how that works.
Exactly.
And so getting to do this today was great to get to know her more.
I'm a delight.
You are a delight. I completely agree.
She's a ruthless gamer, though.
This has been great.
I do get a little competitive.
Ruthless
Not gonna lie.
gamer.
My experience with Julie, like we've played some games before, but like she's always had that like very quiet, almost very nice, and we're just gonna hang back. It's not a big deal kind of thing. I got a whole different side today where it was ruthless.
She wants to be a legend of the West.
And I loved every second of it.
That's
I
right.
mean, game one, when she just clapped all of us.
Game 2 as well. She
Yeah,
also
game
clapped
one
all
Oh,
of
yeah,
us.
that's true. Finally, in game 2, I felt like I actually did something good. And she's like, oh, I scored 25 more points than you did.
That's right. That's right.
So invite your wives, or invite your husbands, or invite people that you're like, they're on the edge, they're on the fringes of gaming, and be like, hey, let's just try this.
Right.
And so I would highly encourage that.
Speaking of that, this game count is 2 to 5 players. So 4 is obviously great because you can do 2 and 2. And so you got 2 couples, go for it. And then 2 couples, and then, a third wheel. Then you can do that also if there's just, you don't want to leave this one guy out.
You don't know what to do with your third wheel.
Yeah.
Buy Ticket to Ride Legacy.
Yeah. So, you can do that. And 2 to 5 is the player count on that. So, yeah, perfect amount.
And you could also do it as a family. I mean,
That's
if you've
true.
got older kids, you could do it as a family. If you've got a group of friends that likes to hang out and do things, you could get it for your group of friends, and every month you hang out, you play this game. So
5 is a good number.
It has a good, legacy games have a good social aspect because you're playing a game, but you're also going through a story, which is really fun for a lot of people and gives more enjoyment for other people that maybe the game isn't the center focus, but they enjoy going through the story and getting to discover things with you. So
what is your favorite thing that you've experienced so far with this, still keeping it spoiler free?
I'll go because I was just telling them how much I love this.
There you go.
So I think it's so cool because it is based on American history. And so when I first saw the board, it was almost instantly like, oh my goodness, it's 60 something. And it's only expanded to the Mississippi River. And I know it's going to come next because then we got the Louisiana Purchase, and we got Texas, and we got Florida, and we had the gold rush in California. And so like in my mind, I'm already spinning.
Already looking forward to what's happening. Yeah.
I know what's going to happen in American history, and it's going to be really fun to play through that.
Yeah.
And so, so much of that, we didn't get to experience all of it, but that was my first impression when I opened the game. Is I was like, man,
we didn't even get into a game yet, and you're like, oh, I already know I'm going to love this.
Right. It was the history, and I was looking at the dates, and I was like, oh, it goes through all these different dates in the 1800s going up.
She was like, I think the Louisiana Purchase is coming next.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Louisiana.
I don't think we opened a single thing yet. Like,
It's so true. But yeah, and this is also fresh in my mind because I am homeschooling my 2nd grade daughter, and we're doing year 2 of American history right
There you
now.
go.
So we're doing all of this.
Right,
so I'm
you're
like,
seeing it.
I have been living this for the school year so far, and now I'm getting to play a game about it, and
Yeah.
that was really fun for me.
That sounds really fun. I honestly, like, this may sound a little bit silly, but I loved feeling like I was a railroad tycoon building my own company.
Yeah.
I really love like immersion games like Tales of Arabian Nights or Mansions of Madness. Like, I like games where you feel like you're a character in this story and the story is unfolding. That's really fun for me. And this definitely, obviously, is a legacy game. So it has that element more than just a normal Ticket to Ride game where you're trying to, build routes from one side of the country to the other. This game, you're, kind of in the mindset of building your own business. And you have like these little, well, I can't actually tell you what little things you have, but that's for
Yeah,
spoilers.
no spoilers.
But there is just some really cool opportunities to really make the game your own, like we've been saying, and create your own like railroad company, and you feel like you're watching it expand as you play. And I think it's really fun to feel like you're really a part of this part of history.
You do get to feel like that. It's kind of, yeah, it's a
No,
nice,
for sure.
They definitely made it feel like that. I know that's what they were trying to do, but they succeeded.
Very much so. For me, I think, thinking back through it, I think the thing that I have loved the most so far is having to unlearn what I know about Ticket to Ride and starting fresh.
You got slapped in the face the first
So first game, no lie, and I'm embarrassed, but and also not embarrassed to say this. I got a whopping $14, and Julia's over here like, "Oh, I've got 45."
Got him.
Yes, so I had to completely restructure my mind for my normal play of Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
But I really liked that actually because it meant, okay, we're not just playing Ticket to Ride for 12 games.
Right.
There's something new in here. And so it really gave a very fresh feel. I was so excited to jump my score from 14 to like 43 the next game.
Yeah, you
and
did.
feeling like, okay,
You still lost, but yes.
I know
Jared wins most improved.
I did get most
Okay,
improved.
class.
I also did win games 3 and 4. So
But then you didn't get anything from it.
I
No,
know.
I won the third game.
Wow.
Oh, you did win. Well, I won one.
Yep.
And I came in second on the other one.
Easy now. Don't-
Improvement is being made.
That's right. Yeah. No, each game is different, and it's adding a lot of, like, you're learning as this game goes on,
Yep.
which is a very fun part of it. Because the board is different, it's kind of that in between of the mini map and a larger map, and so it is a little bit challenging to kind of figure out where the perfect like amount of tickets you want to get and how long of your routes want to, you're trying to balance that out. One thing that I did not mention was the big cities as far as things that are
Yeah.
in this game. So I will mention it now because it is my favorite thing that is not a spoiler. There are more things that I like that are spoilers, but I will not do that, refrain from that. Is the big cities. When you connect to a big city, you gain a card off the top of the train deck. And so that's awesome. I love that part. I think that's absolutely fascinating. It's a perfect, because you're trying to decide, okay, do I want to go? And that's mostly in the big cities, and they're mostly in the Northeast. So you're trying to decide, okay, well, do I just want to stick in the Northeast? But it's a bunch of small routes. But if you go a little bit more south to west, it's the bigger routes and you get more points, but then you don't get the big cities. So super fascinating decision making on like what to pick and trying to go through those big cities because you get that extra card. Like every time you play a train into that, between New York and Boston, you'll gain a card. So that's one of my favorite things so far. It's been really every game I've tried to make that fit into my strategy, and it hasn't worked every time, but it's been a lot of fun to try and kind of wiggle that in because you're like, okay, well, let me play here first, get some extra cards or whatever. So super, super cool. I love that part. And all these other parts that everybody else has mentioned are all great.
Love it. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and end this spoiler-free episode.
Yeah.
So the way we envision this working the rest of the way is that we're going to drop a second episode right behind this where we talk about some of our spoilery thoughts for the first 4 sessions of this game. The goal is to end the campaign at some point and then come back with a different episode where we give our final thoughts on the game as a whole. So if you are interested in that, then you can check us out with that episode when we get around to it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you don't want any spoilers, then we're going to go ahead and do a wrap up here, and then we can bid you adieu for this week. So with that said, Thank you so much for joining us this evening or this morning or whenever you might be listening. It is an honor to have you here with us at the table. If you have feedback or want to give us your thoughts on the game, we would love to hear from you. Links to our various socials are in the description. Additionally, we have a Discord. Please come and join the conversation because we would love to have you. Also, Jared would really like feedback because that's how Jared works.
Tell him all the things.
Speaking of feedback, 5-star reviews, following us on Instagram, and making sure you subscribe to our podcast in any player of your choice are great ways to heroic ways.
They're heroic actions, and we will thank you so much for doing these amazing heroic actions.
That's right, and they are immensely helpful in growing this podcast.
Yes.
Special thanks to Angie Santiago for our cover art and to Anna Snyder who made the music.
That's right.
Join us next week as Anna and Jared soar the skies in Sky Team. Will they stick the landing? We shall see.
I don't know.
Dun, dun, dun.
In the meantime, may your dice rolls and your card draws be blessed, and your experiences at the table be ones to remember forever.